On the wedding day, William's sweetheart came back. She brought her family of 3 to attend our wedding and revealed the secret that she had asked me to keep years ago. She said she came this time because she didn't want to regret her youth. She was about to go abroad for treatment before the college entrance exam, asking me not to tell William so as not to affect his exam. After William found out the truth, he thought I deliberately tried to separate them. Just before entering the hall, he grabbed me by the neck and cursed at me. "So all your scheming was for today, right? I won't let you have your way." In the midst of the shoving, I was pushed down the stairs. The broken glass pieces pierced my carotid artery, and I bled to death. When I woke up again, I returned to the day when the girl I loved asked me to keep the secret. Half asleep, I was awakened by Jenny. "Kaina, Mom said she bought the plane tickets. We are leaving for treatment abroad tomorrow." Glancing at the wall clock, it was 1:30 in the morning. Looking down at the narrow bed in front of me, ever since Jenny came to my house, she had taken over my room. My bed was just a flat reclining chair from home. Mom said it would only be temporary, but I ended up sleeping on that chair from my junior year in high school to the end of senior year. Suddenly, it dawned on me, fate sure is strange. The sharp pain in my neck and the suffocating feeling of excessive blood loss seemed to linger in my senses, making my breathing rapid. Jenny seemed upset that I didn't respond to her promptly. She reached out and gave my shoulder a firm pat. "Kaina, I'm talking to you, can you hear me?" Coming back to reality, I met her expectant eyes. Without a second thought, I raised my hand and slapped her hard. The crisp sound of the slap echoed in the quiet room. She's always so self-centered, only thinking about herself. In the previous life, I foolishly endured it, patiently absorbing her negative emotions for over an hour, and ended up taking the first exam with a throbbing headache. It was her who asked me to keep the secret of her going abroad. She said it wouldn't hurt to wait a bit, not to delay William's exams, as he would find out eventually. She said it like it was no big deal, but no normal person would say that. We all thought that matter was behind us. She stayed abroad afterward, experiencing love, marriage, and motherhood. William and I got together in her 3rd year abroad, and he pursued me. She even sent me a text wishing me well before my wedding. But there she was at my wedding, reminiscing with the man who was about to become my husband, judging the person who had once kept her secret for a day. Did the plane stop running, or did all communication just fail between them? They didn't end up together in the end, and it all became my fault. Did I make William pursue me? Did I make them lose contact after they went abroad? Did I cut off all their ways of contact? Did I set up Jenny to seamlessly transition from love to marriage to motherhood? After I gave Jenny a slap, she only hesitated for a moment before suddenly erupting. "Kaina, are you crazy? How dare you hit me?" I stood up, and before she could react, I slapped her again. "If I'm going to hit you, why wait for the right moment?" Her leg was seriously injured, barely able to drag herself, no match for me. Soon enough, I had her pinned to the ground, hitting her. I had truly had enough. Jenny was my uncle's daughter. Her parents divorced when she was very young. My mom said she was pitiful, told me to give in to her more. She stayed at my house from 2nd grade until she graduated from elementary school. Those 4 whole years were a nightmare for me. It felt like I was her personal servant, a 24-hour nanny, even though we were only 6 months apart in age. It was my fault when Jenny didn't do her homework. It was my selfishness, only caring about myself and not about her. When Jenny got into fights with classmates and had to be cordoned by the parents, it was my fault for not stopping her. It was my fault when Jenny stole money. My jealousy led to me telling her parents. The list goes on. When she was finally taken away by her mom after graduating from elementary school, I thought the nightmare was over. But in high school, she showed up again, and so the nightmare began anew. By that time, my uncle had passed away, and my mom was even more overprotective, burdening me with Jenny. Any issue Jenny had was somehow my responsibility, more than her actual guardian's duty to her. Like when she insisted on becoming a motorbike girl despite being too short to reach the ground, fracturing her leg and possibly causing a lifelong limp. My mom blamed me for not looking after her, and that day she beat me with a clothes hanger, snapping 3 hangers in the process. My arm still hurts when I lift it now. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got, and I continued slapping her. With each slap, her face swelled up. At that moment, my parents finally arrived. Jenny's biological mom couldn't stand our rundown house, staying at a nearby hotel. Perhaps Jenny couldn't bear to part with her 7 days a week personal nanny. On the last night, she had to go berserk again. My mom pulled me up and gave me a hard push. I couldn't keep my balance, and my head hit the nearby cabinet. I reached up to touch it, my hand covered in blood. She seemed surprised by the severity of it, frozen for a moment, and asked, "Kaina, What's gotten into you in the middle of the night? She was still the same as I remembered, never on my side. Across different lifetimes, various grievances kept piling up. I went crazy on the spot, wiping the blood from my forehead, smearing it all over my face. I started to pull my hair and scream, yes, I am crazy. I am a madman, driven insane by all of you. Did I ask to be born? Tomorrow is my college entrance examination. And she woke me up in the middle of the night, just to hear her silly love stories. I can't even refuse her. What, is your brother's daughter superior? Am I supposed to be her slave, her maid? I'm not inferior. It's the kind of life you have that makes me feel inferior. I kept shouting, shaking my mom. She stood there stunned, holding her precious niece. She didn't dare look into my eyes and said, Mom didn't mean that. It's just that Jenny is still ill. Why are you arguing with her? How dare I? How can I, with my lowly status in this family, dare to argue with my mom's noble niece? Maybe I'm not your biological child, but even if I'm not, can't you show some conscience? I'm taking my college entrance exam tomorrow. Can't you show some kindness? I'm begging you, please. What family? Aren't we family? You sure can talk. My mom was about to raise her hand. Suddenly, I stepped back, bowed quickly, and kept repeating, show some kindness, please, begging you. This was what my mom used to do to me. Whenever I complained that she treated Jenny better than me, she would either cry loudly, accusing me of ingratitude, or kneel down and say, it's all my fault, giving birth to you as a maid and treating you poorly. I can't provide you a good life. Go to another family. Where could a child under 10 go? I could only stand there and let her finish her performance, absorbing all her negative emotions. My dad finally spoke up at this point, pulling me up and saying, Karina, it's late at night. How long are you going to make a scene? I looked up at him and suddenly smiled. Dad, well done. I didn't know you could speak. I thought you had invisibility powers in this house. My sarcasm left him speechless for a moment. He wanted to get angry, but after looking at the clock, which showed it was almost 2 a.m., he just ushered my mom and them out, saying, you have the college entrance exam tomorrow. Go to bed early. I remained silent, with a cold face. Once they left, I slammed the door shut and locked it with a bang. Sleeping was out of the question. Even if I slept until dawn, I wouldn't be able to take the exam tomorrow. It had been 7 years since I last took the college entrance exam. I was so fed up. Who would want to go back to that time? Why couldn't we take the test and then come back? I'm really fed up. If I don't do well in the exam, those two won't have it easy either. Didn't you blame me in the last life for holding you back? This life, I'll be good to the end, fulfilling your dreams. As for whether William can see it or not, it's up to fate. Honestly, I feel like my neck hurts now. If not for fear of drawing too much attention, I would call him right now. I want to tell him, hurry up, his sweetheart is going abroad. Or else I'll turn into a three-headed monster, and use physical and mental magic to stop their epic love. But in the dead of night, I just posted a trivial update. My phone was falling apart, and Jenny broke it. So my mom had to give it to me. I saved up for a long time to fix it with my living expenses. Being awakened by the madwoman last night, hearing her epic love story, she thought she might not see the madman once she went abroad. After posting, I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Maybe I've never vented like this to myself before, but after venting, I slept until dawn. I felt much more relaxed. I opened my phone, and William's call hadn't stopped since last night. Great. I hope he does worse than me today. Seeing him frustrated made me feel better. Karina, what's going on? What happened to Jenny? Karina, basic manners. Don't you have any? What's the meaning of your post? Are you so malicious that you want to sabotage someone's college entrance exam? How come he suddenly seems unable to even recognize words? Or am I just a bug in their great love story? So they have to involve me and ask me what something means. Is it that hard to understand? Am I your dad? Should I answer your questions? The response was a quick dial back. Karina, I never thought my name could be pronounced with such gritted teeth. Call me dad for what? Why are you calling in the middle of the night so many times? Didn't your dad teach you any manners? So now you come to your dad. Karina, my patience has its limits. I hung up the phone directly. I gave you face, and what's with the limited patience? Is William always this tense? Besides trying to kill me in the last life, being with him now feels like having a criminal record. The phone rang persistently again. After some thought, I answered. Karina, where is Jenny? Who are you talking to? Do I owe you something? Why should I care about her whereabouts? And why should I have to tell you? Karina, even though I don't know how we've offended you, please tell me, okay? It's really important to me. Hopeless, that's your attitude when asking for help. Otherwise, call dad over and see You don't even want to call him. So let's just part ways. You must have multiple personalities. Huh. Not much love. Huh. Why fake deep emotions? The call ended in frustration. Arguing early in the morning felt good. After getting ready, I was going to eat noodles downstairs before heading to the exam venue. Thanks to Jenny's disturbances last night, my good parents probably felt a little guilty. They left me money for breakfast. I remember in the previous life, I made myself a breakfast as I was feeling dizzy and blurry-eyed. Because early in the morning, my parents had gone to send Jenny. The morning test was for Chinese language, even though I had forgotten a lot of high school knowledge. But it was my mother tongue, so I could manage. I quickly finished the test and was the first to rush out of the exam venue. Starting from a few years ago, the media would interview the first student who comes out of the exam hall almost every year. At the corner of the stairs, I deliberately tore open the wound on my forehead, letting more blood flow. Then, I covered my forehead with one hand and ran towards the exit. Throughout the whole interview process, I kept smiling. I said that I felt hopeful about life. Once I go to college, I won't have to endure beating because of my cousin. This interview quickly went viral online. If I had just been playing the victim, maybe not as many people would have paid attention, but I wanted to create a contrast. The night before the college entrance exam, the daughter disturbed by others, the mother who hurt her own child for the sake of someone else's child. Going to college means no longer getting beat up. My mom quickly became famous because of me. When she returned to the neighborhood, many people pointed fingers at her. At lunchtime, when I went back home, I happened to run into her, who was furious. Kaina, what did you mean by those things you said to the reporter? What did you mean? What's wrong? Mom, your baby is going abroad. Are you still going to hit me? Kaina. A slap from my mom came down. I wasn't dumb anymore. I refused to stand there and let her hit me. I smiled provocatively at her and said, looks like Mom doesn't love Jenny that much after all. Not going abroad to take care of Jenny. Mom's love has regressed. You need to step up. Otherwise, Jenny's parents will divorce. She will be so pitiful. Kaina, how far do you want to take this? Us poor kids who no one cares about can't even speak the truth, unlike Jenny, whose parents are divorced, but still have loving parents who rush to take care of her. Why can't we just endure it for a bit? I turned and sat on a chair, propped up my head, and looked at them. Kaina, aren't you finished causing trouble yet? What about your manners? My dad slammed his hand on the table in anger, while my mom sat on the side calmly. What's wrong? Jenny has left. Now you don't even look at me properly, I retorted as I got up to leave. My mom followed me out. She grabbed my arm, her voice hoarse with anger. Kaina, am I still wronging you for giving birth to you? Is this how you treat me? I struggled to break free. Her grip grew tighter. My arm was being pinched and it hurt. My head, possibly due to the previous injury, was getting dizzier. In a daze, I lost my balance and she pushed me down the stairs. In a flash, scenes from past lives flashed in my mind. Instinctively, I reached to touch my neck. I had been reborn. This wasn't a wedding scene. The old staircase had no glass. Then, there was a violent impact. But this time it was my knee hitting the steps. Intense pain radiated from my bones and skin, followed by numbing pain. My white pants were covered in blood. I curled up like a shrimp, the physiological agony making me involuntarily cry out. My dad rushed downstairs in a panic. Kaina, are you okay? I looked at them coldly and suddenly burst out laughing. I'm not dead yet. Mom and Dad still need to work harder. Our commotion attracted neighbors in the hallway. A kind neighbor took me to the hospital. The scene was chaotic, with voices of people criticizing my parents, and my dad explaining. And my mom, enraged, slammed the door shut. I felt nothing, as if I had gone numb. The blood on my leg flowed more and more. My head was spinning badly. It wasn't until I arrived at the hospital, when the doctor treated my wound and the pain hit me again, that I came to my senses. It wasn't all bad. At least I missed this exam, and I don't have to come up with reasons why I did so poorly on it. And the better news is, I wasn't the only one who missed the exam. William didn't even show up for his Chinese exam. He bought a large bouquet of sunflowers mixed with baby's breath to bid farewell to Jenny. Then, he ostentatiously posted an update. You ask if it's worth it, but for me, you're everything. The post included a picture of the flowers, Jenny's silhouette at the airport, and the silent love guarded by the baby's breath's floral meaning. Due to being injured and hospitalized, I didn't take the rest of the college entrance exams. The reporter who previously interviewed me learned about this and conducted a follow-up interview. Tears streaming down my face, I said to the camera, I don't know how it all turned out like this. I really prepared for a long time. This interview was long, and with testimonials from neighbors. My parents became famous throughout the city. My mom angrily called me, asking me what I really wanted. Everywhere she went with my dad, people would point and gossip, Even my usually soft-spoken dad began to get angry with her. I smiled and said, I should be the one asking Mom what she really wants. Does it have to come down to taking my life? I couldn't help but think of the scene from the past life when I said this. She really did want my life. Back then, she worried that Jenny wouldn't have enough money while abroad, and most of our family's money supported her. But to outsiders, our family didn't seem that difficult, and I couldn't even get a scholarship. At the beginning of my freshman year, they paid my tuition, but later on, they made me work part-time to support myself. She cried and said to me, Kaina, children from poor families need to grow up early. This is all we have. You need to understand us. During my entire 4 years in college, I hardly had a day of rest. I was constantly running between school and part-time jobs. From high school to graduation, I wore the same coat, and my roommates couldn't stand it. So they gave me their clothes that they didn't wear. I never had a day without embarrassment. While my peers were full of youth and sunshine, I felt like a stinky rat in a sewer, afraid of others seeing my embarrassment. Meanwhile, what was Jenny up to? At 19, she was using the money my parents sponsored her to party from New York to Philadelphia. When I saw her Instagram stories, I got extremely angry and went to argue with my mom. But she surprisingly scolded me and said Jenny was in a bad emotional state, cutting her wrists in the middle of the night and going to the emergency room. She asked, must you compare yourself to her? Isn't death something to be afraid of? I have long stopped wanting to live. If I truly wanted to die, I wouldn't just cut my wrist with a knife, a wound that would heal even if it's too late for it to close. I would have died long ago, and you wouldn't even know. She continued tearfully on the phone, Kaina, how could you scare me like this? What do you want me to do? Her tears felt like quicksand, pulling me down bit by bit, rotting with her. Children naturally love their parents. I was always tamed by her with a slap followed by a sweet date. But along with the money transfer, there was a long voice message. My knees have been hurting lately, and I feel uncomfortable in my lungs, but I dare not see a doctor. She let her manipulative ways control me, pouring all her kindness and thoughtfulness into her original family. Naturally, I refused to take that money. Even during my student days, I used scholarships and money earned from part-time jobs to support them a bit. When did I start to wake up? Jenny seemed like a black hole, always needing to feel her worth through other sacrifices, and she had gotten used to it. In the US, she learned to touch forbidden things and drink excessively. The year I graduated, she got kidney failure due to uremia and needed a transplant. My mom didn't hesitate to ask me to be tested. She casually said, Kaina, you can live with just one kidney. You are blood relatives, please, for Mom. In that moment, I was completely awakened. She didn't love herself, let alone me. I refused to let my life be used by her like an item. That was the first time I started to say no to her. She cursed at me and wondered why it wasn't me who fell ill instead. In her repeated attacks, I fully woke up. I didn't ask her to bear me, nor did I owe anyone. No one was good to me, so I decided to be good to myself. I had to live for myself. Probably due to reincarnation, my dad began to change in some ways. However, I didn't need it. He brought my mom to the hospital a few times, but I sent them away each time, yelling and screaming like mad. Is what you did to me not enough? My college entrance exam has been ruined because of you. Are you satisfied? They disliked me bringing this up, but I continued. Mom, you are the best mother in the world. You let me experience a unique life as a slave. My mom is the kindest mother in the world. Mom, how can I blame you? It's my fault. I was supposed to let you control me like a slave and maid, right? Mom, let me give you an idea. Having a child is a business, so make it big. Have more kids, so you'll have more sources of income in the future. Jenny will be even happier. My dad quickly realized the change was good, but I didn't want that either. What? Stop it. We're not talking to you anymore. You've lost your mind. My parents weren't as scary as I thought. So, what was I afraid of in my past life? And why hadn't I taken that first step yet? After spending a week in the hospital, I limped out of the hospital. I made a trip back to our rural family home, where there was 12,000 hidden in the mud bricks. It was what my grandmother left me before she passed away. She was so foresighted, worried about me struggling after she was gone. The little old lady really loved me. She would take a long ride to come and see me at home, even gave pocket money to Jenny to please her. Breaking open the mud bricks under the bed, I took out the money wrapped in layers of cloth. Tears kept rolling in my eyes. Why couldn't I have been reborn earlier? She hadn't even enjoyed my blessings. In the previous life, I survived with this money. I used it to buy goods for street vending in college, but it only provided subsistence. I wanted to open an online store, but I was afraid of losing all the capital. Can't live like that. This life isn't so troublesome. Rebirth, there's still some information gap. I have some knowledge about stocks, and I remember most of the stocks that surged in recent years. With my ID, I went to the bank to get a bank card, and bought a second-hand phone online. Before the new semester started, this money turned into over 270,000. I suddenly felt confident. Money really boosts confidence. And at this time, my mom, in order to make me succumb, hadn't given me a penny for 2 whole months. I felt free and went straight back to my grandmother's old house to live. My dad came back from a business trip and asked me how I had been living during this time. What? Curious how I hadn't died yet. Dearest Dad. William, can you not be so sharp? Dad didn't know. Oh, Dad never knows. If I really starved to death, the grass on the grave would be 3 meters high. Dad might even cry at the wrong grave. Forget it. I don't want to argue with you about this. What are your plans next? Studying for the exam requires money, right? Stop arguing with your mom. As he spoke, he was about to give me money, but I quickly leaped away. Don't. I didn't take it. You guys are more vicious than loan sharks. If I have to pay it back with my life, I dare not take it. Besides, this is Jenny's money. I dare not even look at it. William, how long are you going to make a fuss? How did you live during this time with no money? Are you just thinking to ask me now? You didn't know. Now the whole city knows that I am worse off than an orphan. An orphan even has a monthly subsidy of 1,200. Everyone pities me. I go out with a bowl every day, and someone will give me food out of compassion. The more I spoke, the uglier his face became, and in the end, there was even a hint of guilt in his eyes. Don't say it, Dad. You've benefited from this disaster. Hurry up. Have more children with Mom, so everyone knows that you're producing slaves for the family. In the future, when these slaves go out to beg for sympathy, you don't even have to give them leftovers. This is a lucrative deal. Jenny is going to be so happy again. My father couldn't bear to hear more and left 2,000 abandoned. I don't care. The next day, I went to the post office and sent it to his workplace. There were sticky notes on top, a warm reminder. The world's best dad might be undergoing some changes. I'm worried if my good dad has lost his mind, thinking of becoming a father. But Dad, you need to understand your identity. Do you have the right to use your money? Is it necessary for you to care for your child? You are not an ordinary man. You are the ironclad son-in-law. You gave birth to a slave, not a child you want to cherish. Today, you dare to give 2 big ones to the slave as a reward. Tomorrow, are you going to neglect the family? When that happens, your Jenny will resent you. Are you going to blame me again? Someone really sent food. When I returned to the village, everyone probably knew my situation, and I was invited to eat at home by many. Quite touching. It was as if a decaying body suddenly saw sunlight, warming. It felt like I was back before I went crazy. But I don't need to eat other people's food. Before she passed, my grandmother stored 3,000 kilograms of millet in the granary for me. She was really afraid I would starve. Before she died, she tightly held my father's hand and made him promise not to sell the millet. My father agreed, and only after she glanced at me did she close her eyes. Not long after, my mom said the millet had been stored for too long and wasn't worth much. So she and Dad sold over 1,000 kilograms, until my father started having nightmares, dreaming of my grandmother questioning him. Then he didn't dare to sell anymore. They never went back to the old house. Only I would come back, during winter and summer vacations to clean up. I didn't want to see the old house fall into ruin. I always felt that cleaning it as neat as a pin was like my grandmother was still there. The millet in the granary had been there for more than 3 years, and my grandmother had been gone for more than 3 years. The garlic chives my grandmother planted on the hill behind still grew lushly. Plus, the eggs sent by the village's aunties. I cooked garlic chives with eggs. I also left a meal in front of my grandmother's tablet, as if she was still with me eating. Grandma, why couldn't I come back earlier? In the yard, Grandma planted 7 peach trees. They used to bear little fruit, but this year they yielded exceptionally well. One tree bore 200 to 300 kilograms. My daily routine was to sell peaches at the market in the morning, eat lunch and read books in the old house in the afternoon, and check stocks in the evening. When my dad found out about the peaches, he came to me once and praised me. Kaina, Dad knows you are sensible now, earning money on your own, so you don't need Dad's money. Your mom also cares about you a lot. Are you feeling moved again? My good Dad, do you know why the peach trees suddenly bore so much fruit this year? Grandma said you were too good to me, which made the peach trees bear more as a reward for you. I looked at him with a smile. The afternoon sky was eerily yellow, the trees whispering, and the distant birds screeching. He looked around in panic, left a word, and then hurried off. Afraid of ghosts? I'm not afraid. Really want to meet one. Being alone in this world is too lonely. Soon the new semester began, and my situation was somewhat special. Although I didn't take the college entrance exam, the previous assessments and my past final exam scores were not bad. The school teachers found me and not only offered to waive my tuition, but also sponsored my living expenses. I declined and asked the teacher to help someone in need. When they asked about my life, I made up a story saying I won 100,000 in a scratch-off lottery ticket. Talking about stocks would require too much explanation. The teacher was moved by my gesture and instructed me to keep my lottery win a secret, probably because she also knew what happened during the college entrance examination. In the end, my tuition fees were waived and the living expenses were given to another financially challenged classmate. As soon as the school started, I saw William in the new class. They say enemies meet and feel extra envious. He walked straight towards me and knocked on my desk, telling me to go out, because he had something to say. Why should I go out just because you ask me to? I retorted at him. Fine, if you wish to say it here, even if it means losing face, go ahead. You are also a girl yourself. How can you ruin another girl's reputation? Don't you feel guilty? Why should people feel guilty? Just because they spoke the truth. Those who benefit from the misfortune of others have no guilt. Those who disturb students preparing for exams in the middle of the night have no guilt. Those who shamelessly take advantage have no guilt. Why should we, normal people, feel guilty? It's really unlucky to be in the same class as you. My desk mate Cindy, a lovely girl, spoke with a red face after saying these words, which seemed to leave William speechless. William used to be a good-looking, polite top student before, and no one had ever mocked him like that. For a moment, he was left speechless and kicked over the nearby desk and stormed off. As he reached the door, the owner of the desk, who was in the restroom, came back and scolded, "Who has no manners and doesn't even bother to pick up a fallen desk?" William hesitated for a moment, but decided not to help and had to leave quickly. Cindy and I helped pick up the books, and Cindy couldn't help but say, "See, who escapes quickly is the one who is her." During the year of repeating the grade, my days were quite ordinary. I wasn't showy, perhaps cautious by nature. I was afraid of flaunting my wealth too much and drawing the wrong attention, as I was alone with no means of self-defense. So classmates even thought I was very poor, and they would even feed me snacks after class. Students willing to repeat the year were generally from ordinary families. Compared to others, the college entrance exam was a crucial, even the only way out. Before the end of the first semester, the profits from stocks had already exceeded 1 million. There was another crucial time point then. It was the start of the World Cup soccer tournament. In a previous life, I heard many male students in the class privately discussing it, since my dad also buys some lottery tickets. I only remember 2 or 3 specific scores, but I remembered the exact wins and losses. This year, the champions and runner-ups were Germany and Argentina, and the 3rd and 4th places were the Netherlands and Brazil. The reason I remembered these clearly was that life got too busy afterward, and I never paid attention to previous tournaments. The matches I had strong impressions of were heavily invested. Soon, the over 1 million became over 10 million. Because of fear of drawing attention, sometimes I would take a taxi to other districts to make purchases. I didn't let anyone know about this money. To tell the truth, when this money poured into my account, I felt my hands were trembling. I had never seen this much money in my past life and present life combined. With money, many things got a lot easier. I specifically hired tutors to take extra classes on high school subjects, and I also studied some subjects with my classmates. I told them it was sponsored by a kind-hearted person. Of course, William would not attend classes with us due to his self-esteem. Also, he seemed very busy every day. I later learned from classmates that he now works part-time. He wants to save money to visit Jenny during the winter vacation. Even the cleverest person, if they don't cherish their talent, heaven will take it back. He went from being in the top 10 of his previous grade to being way beyond the top 100. Winter vacation came soon, and besides the time for extra classes, we only had about a dozen days of rest. Of course, William did not go to see Jenny. His family was already against him, because of giving up the college entrance examination last time. Naturally, they wouldn't provide him with extra money to pursue love. The money he earned from part-time jobs was mostly either sent to Jenny out of concern for her well-being or spent on buying her gifts as surprises. Being in a tight financial situation, he naturally didn't save enough money for a plane ticket. During the winter vacation, our previous classmates returned. We had a class reunion. While singing at the KTV, a classmate with whom I had hardly interacted before suddenly handed me a card. I was stunned on the spot. The card was from Charles, who was the top student in our grade. In my memory, I had hardly ever spoken to him. Also, he seemed to be a good friend of William. They were always together. I politely smiled and said, "Thank you for your kindness, but I'm not in such a dire situation. I didn't want to be involved in such matters. In the past life, I actually cared a lot about the possible relationship between William and Jenny. At first, I never thought we would end up together, but I did have feelings for him. During my high school days, my living expenses were very meager. My mom calculated precisely how much money I should spend, and the cash I had at school was only enough for vegetarian meals. Sometimes, I couldn't even afford sanitary pads on time during my menstrual cycle, and after swiping my meal card, I couldn't even have vegetarian dishes. At that time, I was genuinely hungry and craving for a better meal. I even went to restaurants to wash dishes in secret, packaged a meal with oily dishes, and earned $5 per hour. I never dared to touch the money left by my grandmother. Frugality can easily lead to luxury, but it's hard to go from luxury back to frugality. I was afraid that I would use up the money without realizing it, and I had to go to college. What if they don't pay my tuition? So I endured it until one day I suddenly discovered that my meal card would inexplicably have several $100s added to it every month. I initially thought it was a school program to support students from impoverished backgrounds, and I felt motivated to study harder. The money really improved my life a lot. Until one day, I returned to the classroom early and saw William stealing my meal card from my desk. I was furious. I thought, I'm already so poor. Does he have no conscience? I wanted to secretly follow him to catch him in the act, but then I saw him load $500 onto the meal card. I couldn't describe how I felt at that moment. I was just standing there in shock. Besides my grandma, no one had ever treated me like that. Those feelings grew involuntarily. Later, when I found out about him and Jenny, I was actually a bit sad, but because of this incident, my tolerance for him increased each time he took advantage. I became their messenger of feelings. He asked me to take care of Jenny, and I did. When Jenny was sick, I cooked porridge for her, did her laundry, and helped with her homework. Even my mom praised me. That was when I was at my lowest. I even wished at one point that he hadn't given that money, so I wouldn't have to bear this moral pressure. I always felt like I should repay him. Later, when he and Jenny broke up, he was utterly desolate, getting drunk to oblivion every day. After my part-time job, I would help him, encourage him, and take him home late at night. When I came back to life, I wanted to settle this cause and effect, so I gave him $10,000. At first, he was a bit stunned. I mentioned the meal card incident, but he remained silent and didn't take the money. Later, when he and Jenny were struggling financially, I seized the opportunity to give him that money. He clenched his fists and eventually said, "Consider this as a loan. I'll pay you back in the future." There was no future. That person would no longer have any relationship with me. Cindy knew about the meal card incident, but she always thought the money might not be William's. I mean, if it wasn't his, wouldn't he have said something? When Charles handed over the card, Cindy was there. She intentionally exclaimed loudly, "Our Kaina doesn't need it." Last time that William secretly put money on her card, and when she found out, she returned it multiple times. What? That money wasn't his. It was Charles who asked him to put money on the meal card. A guy next to Charles exclaimed. Just as he finished speaking, William came back from the bathroom. He overheard what was being said and stuttered. "I didn't say that money was from me. The money you gave me, I said it was a loan." "Then, why didn't you say it wasn't yours?" Cindy retorted. William stood there, his face turning red, not knowing what to say. Seeing the strange looks in the room, he lifted his foot to leave, but ended up coming back to me, saying, "Kaina, I'll give it to you tomorrow." I didn't look at him, just bowed my head and peeled the fruit, sharing it with Cindy. William couldn't stay there any longer and fled. Suddenly, a slender hand passed me a tissue. Looking up, I saw the owner of the hand under the light, his eyes shining like stars in the sky. I held the fruit, not knowing what to say for a moment. He reached out and took half the fruit, saying, "Thanks." Cindy winked at me teasingly. "What a fair-weather friend." "No, it's not like that." The more I explained, the more tangled it became. Charles's eyes widened, unable to contain his smile. That was the first time I saw him smile so brightly. After the class reunion, he drove me back to the hotel. Yes, I was no longer living at home. During the break, I used to stay in my grandmother's house in the countryside. This time, I came specifically for the reunion. Along the way, we chatted here and there. He apologized for not being able to help me during the college entrance exams, not knowing how to help except financially. In fact, he used to give William over $1,000 every month to help me, but William told him that I didn't need it without saying why, which led Charles to come and ask me directly. "Why, Charles? I remember your financial situation isn't that great either, are you? Kaina, you're so clever, don't you know why I did it? The cool night breeze lifted my skirt, and I kept my head down, not daring to look him in the eye. Suddenly, a denim jacket was draped over my shoulders. Kaina, keep it up. I'm looking forward to being in the same university as you. Last time, I struggled to get into a somewhat famous university, and now, starting over, I'd consider it a success if I could get into the same kind of school again. Could I dare to dream of going to the same university as Charles? I awkwardly raised my eyebrows. He reached out towards my face, hesitated, and then withdrew, his ears turning bright red. I remembered Charles wasn't in the best financial situation. I had seen him tutoring to earn money. I felt embarrassed because I had asked him for help with questions a few times. Since direct monetary help didn't feel right, when the peaches at the old house were ripe, I picked a big bag for him. We sat in front and back rows, so we naturally talked. Every year, I would give him a big bag of peaches, and he always looked indifferent. I didn't want to bother him too much, but I never expected, forget it. I shouldn't dwell on this. I need to focus on relearning and preparing for the college entrance exams. I stayed in the hotel for one night, and when I went downstairs, Charles had already arranged breakfast for me. He had gone back to his own school. Apparently, there was a lot of work to do. Truly a student genius, already busy in the first year of university. The breakfast was exactly what I loved to eat. I felt like I should be calm and collected. Love is precious, life even more so, especially now that I'm kind of a rich woman. After breakfast, I returned to the old house. In the afternoon, I received a package, went to the town by bike to pick it up. It was a sack of books and notes, meticulously categorized and organized. As I read, I marveled at how Charles' notes were so neat. They could be sold as top-notch study guides. During my review, I received a call from William. He wanted to meet me and give me some money. To avoid any emotional impact, I just gave him my card number. There was no need for us to meet, especially since we were in school. It seemed like fate understood my intentions. When school started, William didn't show up. It turned out that the money was meant for him to buy a plane ticket to meet Jenny. However, Jenny did not wait for him and suspected him of cheating. She ended up cutting her wrists in a suicide attempt and was rushed to the ICU. William went on a 3-day hunger strike at home, until his parents eventually took him to see Jenny. Jenny's suicide did affect me in some way, because my mom came looking for me. She called me one night and asked, "Jenny committed suicide, didn't you know?" I responded, "I did. What do you want me to do?" Angrily, my mom said, "I bought fireworks and firecrackers." Kaina, are you even human? I retorted, "Who knows? Maybe we need to see if you're still human, Mom, because, after all, you're the one who gave birth to me." The line fell silent for a moment before I hurriedly reassured my mom not to be angry, explaining that the fireworks and firecrackers were to cheer her up. She abruptly hung up the phone before I could say more. I was speechless and had so much more to say. William finally showed up at school after more than a month. However, the news about him and Jenny had spread far and wide. One day, a male student spoke to him at lunch, and his mother saw them. She immediately scolded the student and warned him to stay away from William. She even threatened, "I'm telling you, stay away from him, or else I'll take you both to die together." The student, afraid of his mother's extreme reaction, quickly dragged her to the cafeteria. Maybe Jenny was really in dire need of money. William started skipping classes more often just to save money to send to her. His parents helped a few times, but being an ordinary family, they couldn't bear such a heavy burden. They had to let him do what he felt was necessary. Soon, it was time for another college entrance exam. I wasn't particularly anxious about the exam. The results wouldn't greatly influence my life anyway. Surprisingly, my mom bought me a dress and brought me food the day the exam ended. Of course, I didn't dare to eat it. She praised me for being responsible and capable, saying she was relieved. It wasn't that she didn't care about me, she just had no choice. I empathized with her and comforted her, saying, "It's okay. You'll get used to it. Let me be the experiment. When you have more slaves later, you'll get more numb." My mom, furious but unable to retort, just watched the bustling examinees pass by. She finally said, "Kaina, you'll understand Mom's intentions in the future. When you're done with the exam, I have something to tell you." I was curious about what outrageous thing could make my mom endure such humiliation and burdens today. The short 3-day exam period quickly ended. I felt like I was developing PTSD, and even hired a female bodyguard during this time. I really didn't want any surprises and to go back to high school. As soon as I left the examination room, a tall and graceful young lady handed me a bag. Inside was a long gown and a gold bracelet, because it was Cindy's mom's birthday. Cindy's mom cooked delicious food, and she would bring me and Cindy 2 portions of food every day in the last semester. I tried to pay her, but she always refused. So, I bought Cindy 2 stocks, making up various excuses to avoid her getting too into it. Like saying it was a dream I had for 2 consecutive years. All sorts of nonsense since I couldn't say I had been reborn. Today was her mom's birthday, so I felt obligated to give her a gift. Upon seeing the bag in my hand, my mom reached out to take it and said, "Kaina, you're finally thoughtful. I don't blame you for the past." I quickly clarified that it wasn't for her, but a birthday gift for my classmate's mom. She retorted, "You buy for your classmate's mom, but not for me. Did you give me anything for my birthday last year?" I explained, "I wasn't even born again last year, so how could I have had the money?" And I reminded her that when I was in elementary school, I saved money to buy her flowers, but she suspected I stole it. When I was in 9th grade, I bought her a birthday cake from a part-time job, but she threw it on the ground, calling it useless and criticizing me for wasting money. I reflected on these past incidents as I looked at my fierce mother, feeling a sense of calm returning, and said, "Mom, I need love like Jenny did. How could I not buy something to please you? I see everyone on the street happily calling out to their parents, and it's something I long for." The atmosphere between us suddenly became tense again. Her hand rose once more. I quickly hid behind the bodyguard, saying, "Look, Mom's going to take her anger out on me for Jenny again. That's why I'm so lacking in maternal love. My classmate's mom is so nice. She won't hit me, won't scold me, and even cooks for me every day. I never thought I'd encounter such a good mom in my life." "Who is she?" "My hired bodyguard." "Where did you get the money from?" "My recently recognized parents gave it to me." "Kaina, are you really going to be this defensive against me? I'm your biological mother." "Yes, I have to be. If I could prove I'm not your biological child, I would have you jailed for intentional harm." She took a deep breath and finally said with a pleading tone, "In the past, Mom wasn't good. Mom has changed since then. I'll pay for your college tuition and living expenses, but Mom is begging you for one thing, okay?" "What is it?" "Jenny has kidney failure. She needs a kidney. Please, have some compassion for Mom. Come with me for the compatibility test. Mom's only wish in this life is this one thing." Oh my goodness, how could this happen? If something happens to Jenny, Mom, what will you do without someone to take care of you in the future? "Kaina, are you going to throw a tantrum at this time? Are you going to argue with her? I just ask you one question. Will you help me?" "Of course, yes. If not, you won't have me as your mom from now on, alright?" I calmly took out my phone and started recording, then smiled and said, "Mom really knows how to scold. It seems like Mom wants to be famous like last year, but this time I'll include Jenny's photo." She reached for my phone, but my bodyguard stopped her. I fearlessly locked eyes with her and said, "If Mom doesn't look for trouble with me, that would be the greatest blessing for Jenny. If I were Mom, I would work harder to earn money, let Jenny enjoy more luxuries, let her be your real child, so we can continue our fate. Why bother looking for trouble from a slave who has already betrayed you?" This completely angered her. She raised the milk tea she bought for me as if to throw it. I held my phone and smiled at her. In the end, her hand hesitated in mid-air, then she turned and left without looking back. As soon as the college entrance exam results were out, Charles called. "How did you do in the exam, Kaina?" "I'm sorry, I didn't get into the school you wanted me to, but," surprisingly excited on the other end of the phone, I almost doubted if I heard it correctly. After all, Charles rarely showed any emotions in his speech. To avoid both of us feeling awkward, I quickly interrupted him and said, I got into a university near the school." "It's okay, we're in the same city, we'll have many opportunities to meet." "Actually, going there, of course, is to make money. If not now, when will I invest in a company, buy a house, right? But, I can't say that directly. Let's just call it a beautiful misunderstanding. I'll charge into the future as an entrepreneur, a scientist with wealth. This year, my total income has reached 20 million. But Cindy doesn't seem very happy. She is puzzled. How my grades were so good before repeating a year, but then my subsequent exams were not ideal, even suspecting that I hit my head when I fell down the stairs. I was happily looking at my report card. She put her hand on my shoulder and seriously said, "Kaina, these grades shouldn't be yours. There are others who repeated a year and did better. Do you want to work harder, so we can go to the same school together?" I was very touched, then I rejected her. I have nothing now, but I have self-awareness. Suddenly thinking of Grandma, I felt a bit sentimental. So I decided to visit her grave in the small town. The people in the village were very welcoming, gave me a bunch of fruits, and asked me where the money came from. I said it was a reward from the school for doing well, along with assigning the bodyguard lady a teacher position. On the way back, passing through muddy country roads, I endured it, thinking to make up excuses in a year or two after college. I didn't deliberately inquire about what happened to William and Jenny afterwards, but they became so famous that I could always hear gossip about them from other classmates. William had just finished the college entrance exams. He reluctantly went to an ordinary university, but he didn't attend, nor did he repeat a year. Instead, he went abroad to donate a kidney to Jenny. Truly a touching love story. I thought they would stay abroad and I would never see them again in this life. But in my second year of college, they returned to the country. By then, William's leg was already lame. His days in Germany seemed very difficult. Without an education or a special skill, after he spent the money he took there, he could only earn a living by serving and washing dishes, while Jenny had already become accustomed to extravagant spending. Losing a kidney, living in extreme hardship, his body couldn't endure it anymore. In less than a year in Germany, he started taking medication. By then, Jenny's mother was nowhere to be found. With no choice, after struggling for another year, they decided to return to the country. Upon returning, William had hoped to get some support from his parents, but he found out that his mother had given birth to a second child and made it clear to him that everything at home was for his younger brother. He had no connection with it anymore. The sudden turn of events was too fast. No matter how William pleaded with his parents, all he heard was, "You're grown up now. This is the path you chose. You can't blame us." Jenny had initially wanted them to stay with my parents, but the house had already been sold by my parents to pay for her surgery. So, William had to rent a place and work part-time to support her. My parents were getting old, they were preoccupied, the allowance my mother gave was limited. Gradually, Jenny's mood became more and more volatile. She self-harmed more frequently, always cursing William about whether he hated her, whether he blamed her. No matter how much William explained, she didn't believe him, and William was overwhelmed daily with various physically demanding jobs. He was already overwhelmed. She has been losing patience with him more and more. The breaking point came when William finally found a part-time job at a bar. It was there that he saw Jenny kissing another man. He rushed over and punched the man, only to be tackled to the ground by the man's friends. In the chaos, someone picked up a chair and smashed it down, breaking William's left leg on the spot. The man later paid him some money as compensation. Jenny moved out of their rental house directly when she left. As she was leaving, she accused William, "William, I have no other choice. I feel like I'm dragging you down. I can only do this. I'm sorry to you in this lifetime. I'll repay you in the next." And she left without any sentiment, leaving behind his messy and moldy house. He saw his unfamiliar self in the bathroom mirror, and wondered how he had become like this. That night, after drinking a lot, he used the alcohol as an excuse to ask Jenny out to meet. He said he still couldn't let her go, and wanted to give her an unforgettable gift. Maybe Jenny was too confident. She actually thought William wouldn't blame her. She eagerly went to the meeting, only to be splashed with a bottle of sulfuric acid in the face. It almost destroyed her entire face. After splashing Jenny, William rode away on his motorcycle. Ironically, the money for the motorbike came from the compensation from the man at the bar. With no fixed plan, he spent the night sleeping under a secluded bridge. He had a beautiful dream that night. In his dream, he didn't go to bid farewell to Jenny and completely cut off contact with her. He also dreamed that she was with that woman, Karina. In the dream, she was not as sharp-tongued and harsh as she is now. She was so gentle, comforting him and helping him as much as she could. He realized she might have misunderstood, but for some reason, he couldn't say a word, because the dream version of her was truly wonderful. Just before the wedding, Charles came to find him. He gave them a wedding gift, a pair of expensive couple watches. He was really angry, but couldn't find words to say. He thought, it definitely wasn't meant for himself. He was sure Karina was still on his mind. But what about Karina? Did she really like him? Or was she just touched by his help when she was in need, like topping up her meal card in secret? With these thoughts in his mind, he became increasingly uncomfortable. He often got angry with her over trivial matters, such as wedding invitations and seating arrangements. He repeatedly asked her why she liked him. When she mentioned high school, he immediately interrupted her in a fit of rage. Until Jenny's arrival, he erupted completely, being disgustingly hypocritical, and intentionally blamed everything on her. This way, he could convince himself that it wasn't just him deceiving her, she was deceiving herself as well. They were both equally despicable. He really never intended to kill her. It was an accident. When he woke up from the dream, he had everything figured out. The Karina in the dream must be real. But why? Why did she harm herself like that? Why was she so petty? He needed to confront her and get to the bottom of it. After Jenny was disfigured, William vanished. Charles was anxious, coming to the apartment every day to take me to class and then escort me home in the evenings. I didn't know how to handle the situation between us. I somewhat despised how submissive I was to William in my past life. I kept asking myself if I really still liked people. Or was it just gratitude driving me? I didn't want to waste Charles' time and energy, so I chose to lay it all out with him. I handed him a card expressing my gratitude. It was a dreary, rainy day. The streets were desolate. He seemed to have lost a lot of weight during this time. After I delivered the polite social thanks, he just silently stared at me. Time seemed to freeze in that moment until he slid the card back to me, saying, "Kaina, you're overthinking it. I don't need your repayment." Then, he got up and left. I sat in the chair, watching his fading figure for a long time, feeling a sourness in my heart. Though I couldn't quite place the reason, I was content with my current life, and I didn't want any changes. Time is the most misleading thing. Gradually, we almost forgot about William, until one Christmas day, when it snowed heavily. I was looking for my car in the basement. A hand quickly pulled me into the shadows, followed by a cloth with a sedative placed over my mouth and nose. I held my breath, not wanting to provoke him further. When he wasn't paying attention, I pressed the volume buttons on my phone forcefully to lower the sound as much as possible, as my hands were bound, and I couldn't see. Despite multiple attempts, I couldn't make a call during this process, until William was driving and the screen suddenly lit up. I quickly answered it, pretending to be just regaining consciousness, and desperately said, "William, where are you taking me? Are you awake now? Luckily you woke up, otherwise, it wouldn't be fun." He didn't say anything more, and neither did I. I kept biting my tongue to stay alert, until he took me to an abandoned factory. I immediately shouted, "This is the textile factory in the suburbs. This place has been abandoned for a long time. What are you taking me here for?" I turned to the side to prevent him from seeing the light from my phone screen. "Kaina, what can I do? Our wedding wasn't even complete, right? Kaina, you said you wanted to be with me for a lifetime. Why are you so heartless? Are you crazy? What are you talking about? I don't understand." "You don't understand. So you made me give up my college entrance exam to send Jenny." "William, are you insane? You think I made you give up your exam? Who was calling me dozens of times harassing me?" "Oh right, I guess I never told you the exact location and flight information. If it wasn't for your social media post back then, would I have? What I post is my freedom. How come someone like you can still appear in this world after reincarnation? Kaina, I might not be able to win over you now, but you are more likable than the last life. Let's finish what we didn't complete this time, okay?" As he spoke, he pinched my neck and covered my face with a drugged cloth. When I woke up again, it was when William bit my neck. Sharp pain instantly sobered me up. I was already dressed in a white wedding dress by him. He dragged me up the stairs. I struggled fiercely. Memories from my last life, before death flashed before my eyes. Intense panic enveloped me. For a moment, I even thought of ending it with him. My hands were tied, and I could only bump into him while he was in a fit of rage. He was lucky enough not to roll down, but instead caught me by reaching out. But accidentally I heard a crisp crack in his ankle. He squatted, holding his foot and groaning in pain. While he was distracted, I tried to run, but he pulled me back. He swung his arm wide and slapped me. My ears rang and my vision blurred. "Kaina, why are you so disobedient? Does it hurt?" "My heart really hurts, you know." Pretending to be compassionate, he held my face, using his thumb to wipe the blood from the corner of my mouth. I bit down with all my strength. My mouth was filled with a metallic taste. He kept struggling, but I didn't let go. He began hitting my head with his elbow. I kept biting, until he kicked me in the stomach. I curled up in the corner from his kick, spitting out a chunk of skin. William winced in pain. Took a while to recover. Seeming still unsatisfied, he walked towards me, grabbed my hair, forced me to look at him, and slapped me a few times. My head was getting dizzy, and my resistance grew weaker. He dragged me to the rooftop. Gripping my neck tightly, he said, "Kaina, let's start over again, and never hurt each other, okay?" I didn't say anything, still trying to struggle. He dragged me to the edge of the rooftop step by step. I suddenly understood his intention. He wanted us to jump together. He was truly mad and delusional. If I had a chance again, I would definitely kill him right at the beginning. Just when I was completely hopeless, Charles's voice suddenly rang out. "William, let her go. We can talk about other conditions." He cautiously watched as William held me, saying, "You're here too. How dare you come?" "Charles, my biggest regret is being like a brother to you. Why did you come to flaunt that watch? If you didn't come, why would I have lost control with her like that? How did it come to this between me and her?" William and Jenny are so similar, always shifting blame onto others. Charles seemed confused by what he was saying, but he chose to go along. "So, you hate me the most, right? Then, I should be the one you seek revenge on, right? Let her go. I'll let you seek revenge." "Charles, this is none of your business. It has nothing to do with you. I yelled out of control. Seems like you two have fallen for each other. He pulled me with one hand, threw a dagger with the other. Then stab yourself twice, and I'll consider it. Otherwise, I'll push her off right now. Charles picked up the dagger, gave me a glance, then stabbed without hesitation. My mind went blank. Tears flowed uncontrollably. With that stab, his beige sweater was stained with blood. Continue faster, William urged excitedly. The second stab came quickly. He could hardly stand anymore, half kneeling on the ground. Seeing him in such a weak state, William pounced on him. Gripping his neck, he said, "Aren't you so tough? How come you look like a half-dead dog in front of me now? My life is completely ruined. Why should you all have it easy? Why, let's go together." Before he could finish, I picked up the dagger on the ground and stabbed him in the lower back. He looked at me in shock. I broke free from the ropes binding me, at the cost of breaking my left thumb. Sirens could be heard in the distance. I couldn't care less. I stumbled towards Charles. The intense pain in my hand seemed to numb me. I gently helped him up, yelling, "Help! Someone help! Come quick!" I tried to stop the blood flowing from his wound, but the blood flowed like a dam bursting, staining my hand crimson quickly. His eyes were about to close. Tears rolled down uncontrollably. That one stab left his entire body covered in blood. "Faster, let's continue," urged William. Charles was rescued in the emergency room for a full 6 hours. I haven't been this scared since my grandma passed away. Thankfully, he made it through in the end. Cindy came to see us a few times, crying in shock. I was mostly unharmed, just a few bruises from being hit, and my left thumb aching a bit, making it hard to use. On the third day of hospitalization, he was allowed to eat some liquid food. I had some bland porridge made and fed it to him with one hand. He looked at me awkwardly and couldn't help but say, "Charles is so rich. Why bother feeding me yourself? You could just pay someone to do it." I didn't expect him to be so stingy, still remembering my previous refusal. But seeing his pale lips, I had to carefully coax him, saying, "I can't trust anyone else to do it. How can I relax if someone else feeds you?" He turned his head away and stopped looking at me. I put down the spoon, reached out and pinched his ear, saying, "So I carefully asked myself, how could it be just gratitude? It's because I like you too much that I dare not make a decision easily." His ear between my fingertips gradually turned red and warm. He still didn't turn his head. I leaned over gently, kissed his ear, then his chin. He looked back at me in surprise as I kissed his lips. "Charles, thank you. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you for coming to me again and again." William was sentenced to 20 years for his crimes. Except for Jenny, who went to see him with her head covered, no one else cared about his fate anymore. His crimes were to be judged by the law, and we had to start a new life. Sometimes people can't confine themselves. I deliberately cut off all ties with the past. I don't want to recall the bad things or make myself sharp and crazy. As for my parents' future issues, I handed them over to the appropriate authorities. Someone would give them a monthly living allowance regularly, and I no longer directly contacted them. Unexpectedly, in this life, I received my mother's apology for the first time. She desperately tried to find me, spending a long time before knowing where I went to college. She wanted to see me urgently, but when she came, Charles and I had already left. Charles went abroad for further studies, and I went to take care of overseas business, all in an effort to relax in a new environment. She searched for everyone she could find, even finding Cindy. Cindy said she was a bit strange, repeatedly confirming with her whether I was still alive. She said she just wanted to see me once, just once. I didn't agree. I only had someone pass on a message to her. "I've already repaid the life that belonged to my mother once. No need to meet again in this life." After that, I knew little about what happened next, only that she kicked Jenny out of the house. She wrote many letters to me, but didn't have my address. It's too late now, and it doesn't matter anymore. I will never look back. Perhaps due to sudden emotional fluctuations, one night, I had a very long dream. I dreamt of Charles going crazy after I died in the previous life. He kidnapped and imprisoned William, torturing the ones who harmed me. It wasn't until the police found them that William was sentenced to prison for accidental murder and Charles for intentional injury, where he attempted suicide many times until his mentor found him to study time-traveling technology. Then he found the will to survive. In my dream, I stayed with him for a long time. Charles spent a full 20 years trying to study time travel without success. In his old age, he became obsessed with theology, praying to a higher power for a chance. He stopped studying time travel and focused on other research and inventions. He donated the money he earned from those patents in my name. Before he left, he seemed to see me and said, "Karina, I've done everything I could, but it seems there's no turning back." Upon waking up from the dream, I looked at the person sleeping beside me and felt like it was all just a dream. Was he really that stubborn? What good do I have? Charles would never tell Kaina that he had fallen for her even before she knew. At that time, my father had just passed away, and our family conditions were not good. Charles went to play at his grandmother's house in another village. Passing by her house, he saw the large red peaches in the yard. He was afraid of being laughed at if he stayed any longer, so he quickly left. Suddenly, a girl stopped him. You are Granny Mary's grandson, right? I'm Kaina. Can you help me pick 2 peaches? I'll treat you. Upon hearing this, he happily climbed the tree and picked a lot for her. She went back in and brought several plastic bags to fill up a big bag for him. When leaving, he caught sight of a large basin of bright red peaches in her family's living room. Those peaches were the best he had ever eaten in his life. Later, when his grandmother fell seriously ill, he and his mother found out very late. When they entered the house, they saw fresh food on the table that she hadn't finished. These were the dishes she sent every day during her winter vacation. She didn't seem to think it was a big deal. She always smiled like a little son. Later, he learned that her life was not as he had imagined. In high school, when his mother's job improved, he took on tutoring jobs to contribute to the family. On the other hand, for the whole semester, he never saw her cook meat dishes. He wanted to know the reason, but was afraid of disturbing her. In the end, he could only choose this method. He originally thought he was not asking for anything, but when William told her that they liked each other, he had never been so irritable before. But can liking be forced? Does he have to use blackmail to seek reward? She was so clear-cut, as if she would give a bunch of peaches as thanks for solving a few problems. He thought those peaches from 2 years ago were really sour.